I'm meteorologist Katie Nicolau, and you're listening to the Coffee and Geography podcast. Grab yourself a brew and enjoy the listen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Coffee and Geography podcast. And I finally have in front of me a friend of mine, Dr Anjana Khatwa. Oh, I've got you at last! Yay, in the coffee house.
Finally, it's happened, Kit. We're here with our brews, and we're here to chat about all things geography.
We are here with our brews, and I know because you've been so busy. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about, your talks, your work, your book, and we'll definitely get to talk about that because if people haven't heard about it by now, then hopefully this will help, seal the deal now. But
I think if they haven't heard about it, they've been under a rock, ironically.
Oh, but I feel like you had that one waiting somehow.
Yeah, it's been brewing for a long time, that one. Yeah.
And another pun. Okay, speaking about brews, what you drinking today?
Well, I have got my. If anybody out there who loves rocks hasn't got this mug, you need to go and get this. Okay, so it's a geological timeline on a mug. It's the best mug ever. I think actually, do you know what? This is my third iteration of this mug because I've broken or lost at least the previous two, and so I'm on my third one. And the brew I am drinking, because I actually gave up coffee and tea. So I probably have 1 cup of caffeinated tea a day, but I gave up coffee a year ago. Now but I've been having this for a number of years. This is Celestial Seasonings, Bengal Spice. This is just the most amazing, full-bodied cinnamon, all great things in this. So if you want to kind of come off caffeine and you're looking for like a full-bodied, really tasty brew, this with a spoonful of honey is amazing. I love it. Celestial Seasoning are an amazing, you'll know this, but an amazing American brand of herbal teas. It packs a punch.
And if you didn't see if you're not watching, folks, you're listening, then the packaging was beautiful. It's like a very artistic, got a tiger kind of very proudly saying, look, come by my brews. Yeah, right front. Yeah, with
Bengal tiger with the spices.
Bengal tiger, there you go. And spices all laid out in front of it with a beautiful vista in the background. And your mug is just brilliant, and I love it because I think it's just beautiful. Oh, it's very pride. In a way,
it is, isn't it? It is.
Yeah,
it's like pride in geology. It's brilliant because I think if you're in a meeting and you're like, I need to talk about the Pleistocene, what year was that? You can literally like secretly take a sip out of your mug and look at the dates, look at your geological timeline on the side of the mug. Here you go. So for all of those who are listening, it's essentially a multicolored mug with the geological timeline on it. And it's very useful if you're in meetings and you're talking about, all different types of geological periods because it's got all the dates on it and pictures of fossils.
Okay, that is okay. So now that is something a trick I need to pick up. So get my talking points or the things I constantly forget on a mug. That's genius.
Pretty much.
That's genius. Yeah, I don't know if I can get the whole of like the geographical processes on one mug. I have to have my tectonic mug, and I have to have my, my meteorology mug, my different clouds mug, and all that kind of stuff. My wife.
I think therein lies the opportunity of merch, doesn't it? So we need to get on that.
Oh, brilliant! So, Anjana, you've got such a rich background as well, and I'm so excited for people to hear about this, for people who haven't heard about your background as well. So one of the questions we ask, of course, on this podcast is how has geography, or in your case as well, geology as well, how has that informed your identity, from where you live today to, where you've grown up, the places you visit? And I know I've been to, some of your talks where you've talked about how, some places that you've been to have really, made you who you are today. I mean, you could go on forever with this, but it's such a fascinating story. Yeah. So just take us through. Dr. Anjana, this is how I became because of the geography and the places that I've been.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it short. So, what can I say? I was born in Slough. It all begins in Slough. Slough is the center of creation for me. And it's interesting because Slough is, you grow up when you're doing geography at school, or especially during the 80s, Slough was on the high-tech corridor, so it was kind of seen as this point in the Silicon Valley
Yes.
development in British economy. And so you have the Slough Trading Estate. It's on the M4. It's right on the outskirts of London, close to Heathrow Airport. So I think in terms of growing up in that environment where Slough was this kind of beating heart of industrial, well, I'd say the tech industry of Britain in the early 80s, I think that I grew up with that kind of understanding, that it was an important place. And but also I was growing up in a community that was an immigrant community. So my heritage background is Rajasthani. My ancestors moved from Rajasthan in India to Nairobi in Kenya under British colonial rule. So we're talking like 200 years ago. They were indentured servants, so they moved over to Kenya to build infrastructure under the British, whether that was built, bridges, railroads, supporting the families, British families out there by laundering clothes. There was a whole bunch of things the family were doing out there. And there was this exchange of people from Rajasthan in India to Kenya as well. So people were kind of sailing on steamships back and forth. And that's how it worked. And eventually my mother was born in Nairobi, to several generations of families that had basically settled there. Interestingly, my father's side of the family traveled back and forth, and my great grandfather, the story goes, is that he had some argument with some British overseer that he was working under, and then took my grandfather, his wife, obviously, and his family and his children. They went back to India after this argument. But my grandfather had been promised in marriage to my grandmother, who was 16 at the time. And so when she came of age, when she was 18, against her wishes, my great grandparents basically took her on a steamship back to India, and she was married to my grandfather in where they were living at the time, in Karachi, which was part of India. And I don't think she was particularly happy. I don't think anybody would be. And she never really fitted into India. She never liked it as a country. She always felt very unhappy there. And then, of course, after British colonial rule ended and India gained its independence and then partition, my grandmother and my grandfather went through that process of having their life completely uprooted, because they were living in Karachi at the time, which then became part of Pakistan. So then they had to escape literally overnight and boarded these trains that were horrendous. You've probably heard the stories of Hindus and Muslims kind of massacring each other. So anyway, they escaped into India, where my dad was born in a refugee camp in Agra. And again, I think that was quite a traumatic existence. And then he left India with his mum and dad, my grandparents, when he was about 4 years old. So when I spoke to him when I was writing the book, he said that was he still remembers it. And I'm amazed, because it's like you have very few memories, fragments of memories, when you're about 4 or 5 years old. But my dad remembers getting on that steamship and seeing India for the last time, and then arriving in Nairobi, and then and so it's quite an interesting experience to talk, to see the world of this post-colonial world, this kind of partition, the breakup of India, the impacts of that on my family. To hear that firsthand as I was researching this book, it was really fascinating. And then my dad grew up in Nairobi. My mum was there, right in the city centre. She kind of moved around with her family. She kind of lived out in the sticks in Nairobi for a while, out in the bush, because that's where her dad ended up running a company. But then my dad came to Britain when he was 16, just after Kenya got its independence, and he actually got an apprenticeship as a sign writer, because he couldn't find a position with a publishing house. He was really interested in publishing and printing, but then he came to the UK and ended up getting an apprenticeship as a sign writer with Slough Borough Council. And then much later, my mum and dad married, and there I am, born in Slough. and it's interesting because that whole
They
area
are.
around Slough
Yeah.
is the really it's really rich with Rajasthani families who came over from Kenya. So we have a community there. We have a community foundation called the Rajasthani Welfare Society, and they, you know, for about the last 40 or 50 years, they've kind of pulled this community together. So in terms of geography, you know, it's been kept alive by a group of people, families that have wanted to retain that heritage despite this kind of story of migration and upheaval and oppression. But we, you know, it's all very much alive
Mm.
today. So I have a lot of people to thank, my elders in my community, for, you know, I speak fluent Marathi. You know, we have regular gatherings. I've kind of grown up in a really rich cultural environment, a really spiritual environment. So I think in terms of human geography, I think I've really been
Yeah.
shaped by those experiences of migration. And then in terms of landscape and what helped me to become who I am today, which is really someone who absolutely loves landscapes and rocks in particular. I've just had an opportunity to go back to my parents' homeland and see the amazing landscapes there. But also, I think as a family, and as a community living in Slough, we often went out to places out in the countryside, you know. And bizarrely, I
Mm.
think for families living in Slough, I think going to the coast is a really big thing, to see the coastline, to see the sea. So we used to have holidays to the
Yeah,
Isle of
it's
Wight.
so far away. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like, I think when you're getting on a boat, aren't you? You feel like you're going to a different country. But there are pictures of our family in the
Yeah.
late 1970s on holiday in the Isle of Wight. And so I think the British landscape, it started to open itself up to me outside of Slough, you know, on those few moments that we would go and explore. So I think that's how geography has shaped me.
It's yeah, and I never tire of hearing you talk about that because it's such an incredible thing. And then quite often you kind of bring that into your talks. And of course, the other thing you bring into your talks is how you became your moniker, which is Jurassic Girl, because
Mm.
that's the kind of handle that you have on a lot of your social media. So, and there's one picture that always stands out in my mind, Anjana, and that is it's not this
Oh
one here. Oh, look at
gosh.
that. But
Yeah, I know. Grumpy
it
girl.
was this picture. This one is
Yeah.
the
That
one that you've
mm,
recalled many times. Yeah, I think you should, our listeners. So, folks, you've got describe this picture to us for those who are listening rather than watching, and then tell us how
yeah.
this was the birth of Jurassic Girl.
Yeah, so this is a photograph that was taken in 1988. It's amazing. It's time stamped as well. And it's a
Yeah.
group of, well, it's me, my dad, my sister, my mum, my aunt, and my brother and my cousin. And we're kind of standing like those typical family photos, you know, where everybody's like, you know, stand to attention. We're taking a photograph here. We're standing in front of quite a solid sign, like an interpretation panel. And it's a panel to show that we are at the Shaitani lava flows in the Tsavo West National Park in Kenya. As you've got these people standing in front of this sign, you've got these amazing lava flows around us and behind us. They're really like darkish grey, black colour.
Mm.
And I'm standing in front of that sign next to my dad, and I'm wearing the best field trip outfit ever, which consists of my Sunday best dress from CNA, if you remember that shot. I'm wearing a
Oh
cap,
goodness.
a red and white cap, and I'm wearing knee-high socks with plimsolls. So, you know, you don't need to wear all this Gore-Tex rubbish. Just go out in your knee-high socks, plimsolls, and your best dress. Go look at rocks. But it's this. It's remarkable because it's this photo plus the rock that I picked up on that day, and here it is in my hand. For those of you, I'm
Yeah.
holding a piece of basalt. It's quite sharp. It's been on a lot of it's been to a lot of events, so it's a little bit knocked about. But
Yeah.
essentially, it's a piece of vesicular basalt. It's got like all of these holes in it. You can still see, even after what is it, 35 years, you can still see the red soil of Kenya in it. But I picked up
That's
that rock
amazing.
just after that photograph was taken, and that made me into the earth scientist I am today, because I knew I wanted to have a career in science. I didn't know what kind of science. I was probably heading towards astronomy or physics or something like that. But it was a walking over those lava flows, because I'd studied a little bit of plate tectonics at school by then, and I just thought, this is amazing. absolutely fell in love with the rocks, and here I am today.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you know what I realize I haven't done yet, Anjana, is that I haven't actually read your bio out. So I might.
Oh,
So I'll decide whether I will own the mistake now and just read it now, or whether I cut it in earlier. But because people are thinking we haven't even introduced you to us to Anjana yet. So yeah, I mean when I read your bio, it's kind of incredible what you've achieved since. So yes, you've won awards. You've got here. You know, you're an award-winning earth scientist whose career spans universities, the Jurassic Coast. I know that's like you love the Jurassic Coast. So that's on the south coast of England, folks. So the Jurassic Coast World Heritage Site and the National Trust. You've presented programs on the BBC and ITV and received the Royal Geographical Society's Geographical Award. That's a mouthful. And the Geological Society of London's R.H. Worth Award and the Geologist Association Houston Medal. My goodness. I didn't know about that last one. And in 2021, she won an award for a National Diversity Award for Champion Inclusion in Earth Science. And The Whispers of Rock, her first book, was named a Book of the Year by Waterstones, New Scientist and Nature. Yeah, and you live down in Dorset in the near the Jurassic Coast with your family. So I mean, when I heard that news, Angela, about the accolades for your book, so well done, congratulations. I mean, that's a fantastic mix. So you got Waterstones, so the people who will sell the books, but also recognized by new scientists in nature. And I think that's even better because because they don't give out those kind of awards unless they feel these are fantastic resources in terms of science communication. And I think that the Whispers of the Rock and the stories that you're able to tell through it, it's just some of the best psychom. And speaking as someone who works in psychom themselves, so I mean, I think now is just a fantastic opportunity to kind of like talk about that book, because I've got your pictures here as well on your website. The Whispers of Rock gallery. So I'm just going to be led by you now, Angela. So if you want to kind of like take us on a bit of a journey in your own way, kind of like about the book and some of these pictures that are included in it, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's amazing for the book to be recognized particularly by New Scientist and Nature, as as one of the picks of 2025, because I think what the book essentially does, for those of you who haven't heard of the Whispers of Rock, Stories from the Earth, is that it blends together our scientific understanding of the creation of our world, and particularly our geological world, together with other ways of knowing. So I've drawn together knowledge from indigenous cultures from all over the world, but also my own culture and those from the global majority. And what I'm doing is essentially just putting them together and exploring how that makes you feel as a reader. Because even yesterday I was reading something on Instagram, and someone's advocating for nature and nature writing, for people to pick up a book about nature. But in all of the selection that this particular person chose, there wasn't one person of color, but also there wasn't one book that spoke about rocks or soils. It was all about the living aspects of the natural world, but also rivers. And in the text underneath what this person had posted, they said, long live rivers, long live trees, long live nature, long live the wildlife. And I thought, well, what about the rocks? Because the rocks are the fundamental basis of life on Earth, and
they
also
are literally the foundation of everything.
They're the foundation of life on Earth. They basically support all of the things that people now regard as so essential for life, like microbial life, fungi, whatever you want to call it. Everything starts with a rock. You need the rock to be digested by fungi, by lichen, in order to break down and release the nutrients to form the soils to support all life on Earth. And I kind of do step into those spaces where I shake it up a bit and disrupt and say, actually, do you know what you've forgotten to talk about? You've forgotten to talk about the rock here, and actually long live the rock as well. So, and I'm not afraid to say that I am an absolute champion and an advocate for the rocks. When I'm out in the natural world, and you'll read about this in the book if you're so interested, but the book does not stray away from the core message that there are lots of people that walk through the natural world and see all of these incredible things like the trees and the birds and the flowers and every other living aspect that assaults our senses, but for the most part the rocks are invisible. So in the book, what I really want to get across is that rocks are part of our living world, and the more you can see them, the more you can interact with them, even touch them, they'll reveal their stories to you. And some of the pictures that I put on my website are the pictures that have been used in the book. The book is black and white photos, so on the website you can go to the website and see them in full color, or you can go to my Instagram profile and I put them all there as well. But some of the images kind of really they were beautifully shot in a studio with my photographer Rob Coombs. So we had a full day where I brought some of the rocks that were featuring in different stories, and we had a photo shoot with the rocks, and I really wanted him to bring out their personalities. So if you go back to the coal, actually there's a piece of coal that I speak about in the book, and it's quite an interesting rock because I'm holding it in quite a kind of a provocative, confrontational way. You know, I'm not holding it like I'm cradling in my hands. I'm holding it up to you because I want you to confront it. And in the book, I talk about rock as, you know, it brings its own story in the writing, and this is what I've deliberately done in the book. Is as the narrator, as the writer, what I've done is I've taken a back seat in some cases, and the rock comes forward to tell you its own story, to tell you how it feels, to tell you its creation, its origin story. And the coal in here in this photograph really, the photograph was defined by how I wrote the voice of the coal, because the coal for me felt quite tragic. You know, at one point, if you go back 200 years ago to the Industrial Revolution, it was the most loved rock on the planet. You know, it kept people warm, it cooked food, it was a source of comfort. You know, we loved and we cherished this rock. And you know, over the last 150 years, it's become the enemy of our time, and we absolutely despise it. And so when I was trying to craft the voice of this rock, and obviously take this very provocative photo where I'm presenting it to you to consider, how do we feel about it now? Of course, you know, if you speak to most people, particularly climate activists, they absolutely hate it. And in the book, I kind of challenge that and say, this, it's not the rock we should be hating. The rock in itself was, you know, is formed, ironically, it's formed from the organism, the natural entity that we love most in the world, which are trees, which are plants. Isn't that ironic?
I know.
So, you know, 380 million years ago, this rock was once a vast, lush jungle. It was, you know, there were dragonflies, there were these amazing trees, and we love trees, right? But now, because it doesn't look like a tree, because those trees have fossilized and changed form into this, you know, into this rock, means something very different, and we don't love it in the same way now. And we especially don't love it because it by using it, by kind of burning it, we are releasing carbon dioxide, carbon into the atmosphere. And in the book, I just kind of confront people to face the reality that actually it's not the rock that we should be hating and judging and despising. It's ourselves, because we don't know how to manage our own consumption.
You know, so I dabble a little bit of, you know, things like performance poetry and stuff as part of my science communication, stuff like that. And when I look at this photo, when I saw this photo for the first time, it was almost as though that rock is saying, you know, I'm sorry, like, not for being me. And this is, I'm probably getting a little bit personal now, but, you know, not for saying for being me, but I'm sorry that the way I've been treated and have caused this toxicity. You know, it looks, I don't know if this was your intention, but the picture, it's almost like, I'm here to speak my truth. You know, I'm sorry for the harm that I've caused. This was never my intention. It's a very humbling picture, I think. And when I first saw this picture myself, I mean, I am one of these climate activists who would vilify coal, absolutely. But I know enough. But I do know enough to know that it's you know, I'm a big advocate of, you know, I don't subscribe to geography being the reason why people are malnourished, in deprivation. I don't subscribe to that at all. It's the human interference that has caused that problem.
Absolutely.
The human, but you know, so, and this is like the coal saying, you know, if I could have done something to have stopped anything I would do, I'm so sorry. This is not what I'm here for. I'm here to treasure life, to preserve life. I'm not here to
yeah.
destroy life.
Absolutely.
And that's it's split. You're right. That's why the title of your book is so perfect. You know.
So do you want me to read what this? Yeah, I can read what the coal is saying. It's a reading from the book. Here's the book. It's on page 180. This is what the coal is speaking to me, whispering to me when I find it in Ironbridge Gorge. The relentless killing of animals for their fur, feathers, and skin is not so different to my body being brutally cut from the earth, it whispered to me. Once upon a time, I was one of the most coveted natural resources in the world. I brought heat and comfort to those in need and was traded as an object of power and beauty. Now, because of ruthless human exploitation, I have become the greatest enemy of your time. Unable to return to my home and viewed as an environmental and social outcast, what will become of me now? Yeah.
Yeah, that hits hard.
Yeah, it does hit hard because I think it centers the conversation on ourselves and how we view the geological world in particular as ours to own and to extract and do with as we will. And because of that, we have lost this sense of empathy and connection with the rock around us. So much so that, like in that Instagram post, the person didn't even think to mention the beautiful rocks that contain, tens of millions of years of life. It's still life, it's fossilized life, but it's still life nonetheless. It's life that's passed.
What do you think? I mean, because I'm just thinking back to my own education. It's like that, when the geology or the soils unit came up in like A-level geography, like it didn't excite anybody, and I'm wondering whether that is a problem of the way it was taught, or is that the way that the textbooks portrayed it? Because it was, I admit myself that it wasn't until I got probably to undergraduate myself and I had to do, in the year one, you had to do your general modules, you bit of this, bit of this, bit of this, bit of this, to make sure that geodynamics, all that kind of stuff. So when I actually realized, like, crikey, this is actually fundamental. Why was it not taught in this kind of way when I was in high school? I mean,
it's a great
have
point,
any idea why?
Yeah, I think it's partly to do with the curriculum at the time. And I worked closely with Professor Dennis Brunsden for many, many years, about 15 years before he sadly passed away 2 years ago. And Dennis was a very key advocate at the Geographical Association. He was at the RGS. If you don't know Professor Dennis Brunsden work, he was one of the he was the godfather of Jurassic Coast, but also he was an international expert on landslides. And what Dennis tried to do during his career at the GA and the RGS was to really try to embed fundamentals of physical geography into the national curriculum for geography, and particularly at school. So I know that some people have campaigned very hard to try to get more earth sciences into geography. Certainly when I was at school, I had a teacher that was really, really passionate about physical geography, Helen Edwards. And she and I are in touch now. She loves the book. She's, it's amazing how you keep in contact with people. But what she did in my A-level classes was to really teach, particularly plate tectonics, in a way that just blew my mind. It was absolutely amazing. And then even though we weren't studying it as part of our classroom exercises, I actually went away and did the work myself because I loved it so much. And then it came up in the exam. So I think it all depends on how much your teacher enjoys the subject and how much they can bring it to life for you. I mean, we're looking at some of the other pictures on the website, and I think this is an interesting one, the one that you've just stopped on. This is a piece. This is the Ishrin formation from Petra in Jordan, and it's this beautiful multicolored sandstone. It's got this
gorgeous.
I mean, you can describe it's ochre yellow. It's got orange. It's got pink. It's got white. It's got this amazing cross-bedding structures in it. Very, very fine-grained sandstone. And I think part of the beauty of geology is that you can, particularly sedimentary geology, because that's where my passion and that's where my expertise lies, is you can look at these rocks and you can still see the processes forming these rocks today. And I think that's the beauty of sedimentary geology in particular, is that these particular sandstones in Jordan formed from rivers flowing over a sandy plain. This was a time before plants with root systems evolved, so that the sand grains could just literally be washed about in the riverbeds
Right.
without kind of being knitted together by root systems. So what you get are these beautiful cross-bedding structures. But essentially, you could walk across a river plain today. It's going to look different, obviously, but that same process, that water flowing over the landscape, transporting sand grains and then dropping them in low flow areas, that's still a process we see today. And yet this rock is 500 million years old and has captured that moment in time. That's what blows my mind.
Yeah. Nature is its own artist. It really is.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it is a work of art. I mean, the amount of times I've
Beautiful.
been, my partner is the artist and loves going, as goes to galleries. She's actually putting an exhibition on herself soon, but nature-based art and art expressing nature. And when you look at this, it's like you can certainly see someone as this could have been painted as a piece of abstract art or
Totally.
It. And it's so, because when I look down at this could either be an aerial view looking down, a satellite looking down at a range of mountains,
Totally.
So, and then
Totally.
when you think of it like in that scale, if you think, okay, let's imagine this was a range of mountains and these are all valleys and cliffs and things like that, then we should be able to zoom into each one of those valleys and cracks and crevices, and then you'll find a whole new ecosystem, you'll find a whole new story, a whole new way of how that came about. And it's just rocks do something to scale that I think hardly any other piece of geography can, because you could take rocks on a global scale. You think of the formation of the Himalayas,
that's right.
which is huge, but then when you kind of like drill down to the microscopic level, you've got a whole different story to discover. And I think that's what's underappreciated when it comes to rocks. And I'm talking to someone who's only coming to this realization, within the last decade or so, because I was not enthusiastic at all when I was a child.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think that's what the book really attempts to do, particularly with people that haven't stepped into this world before. And I've given, over the last 6-7 months, I've given a fair few lectures and talks and podcasts to a huge variety of audiences. People have come I'm on cruise ships as well, where people are coming to lectures who have no idea, who have no clue about geology or rocks or geography. And by the time my job is done, they've left, in tears, because they're like, I never saw the world like this. And what I feel the book has done is it's really brought a sense of humanity to the subject, to rocks, to landscapes, to human connection with landscapes as well. And I just feel very proud that I've played a part in opening up the world to people who otherwise wouldn't have looked twice.
Yeah, I think you really, really should. It's so good. And I do a lot of reading as well. I don't, my partner says I don't do enough fictional reading, but I do a hell of a lot of non-fictional reading. And I just, it's just, so like books like this, and you got other books, we had Elon Kelman come on once, talk about disaster by choice and things like that. And it's just such a good way of accessing the world that you might not be able to get in. But I think the other thing that I felt, in terms of accessibility, the other thing I felt really, really interested when I first met you and we were talking about this is the whole kind of like accessibility, the physical accessibility to places like this. Because if you go walking along the coast in Dorset or the Southwest Coastal Path or even the North Norfolk Coast Path, whatever it is, you don't see a diverse group of people. It's mostly, white people of a certain age, perhaps with their families, if anything, and then very few, you don't see people of color, you don't see that variety in there. And it is such a shame and a travesty that people don't feel either they can access or feel it's safe for them to be in places like that. So I just wondered if you could just spend a little bit of time kind of comment on that, because I know you do a lot of work about diversity and making sure that geography, that space and nature is accessible to a wide group of people.
Yeah, and I think that's the important word, is accessibility. And if folks don't know, I actually work as the joint head of inclusion and belonging at the National Trust, which is perhaps one of the largest landowners, apart from the
Yes.
Crown Estate and some other people. But the National Trust looks after over 200,000 acres of British, and we're talking England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, British landscape. And as head of inclusion and belonging, I'm actually working at a very senior level to shift and change the organisation's cultural competence, capability, and understanding of how we begin to open up the work that we do to as diverse an audience as possible. And this does include global majority communities, but it also includes children and young people and those from socially economically deprived backgrounds as well. But I think if we're talking about people from the global majority, people of color in particular, I always kind of slightly bristle when people say, oh, your community, your Asian community, South Asian community doesn't have a connection with nature. You're disconnected from nature. And that makes me feel a little cross, because actually connection to nature comes in many, many different forms. So if we're talking about connection to nature through walking the coast path, you're right. There is an accessibility issue there with getting out to those places. You need a car, and petrol is so expensive at the moment, and you need the confidence to walk in the landscape, to understand how to read a map, or what to do when you're approaching a stile and there's a countryside code, and indeed what to wear as well. I mean, when I went on my A-level geography field trip, I didn't have any outdoor clothing, and yet I was doing A-level geography and I was going to North Wales, and I had to borrow a waterproof jacket off my friend's father that was like 10 sizes too big. So and some people are still experiencing that as a barrier today. That's not to say that all global majority people of color don't know what to wear. Of course, some people are very experienced, or they have access to their wellies or clothing or hiking boots or whatever it is. But I think it's accessibility, not connection to nature, that's the issue here. Because I think for a lot of communities, faith and spirituality is their connection to nature, is how they bring nature into their everyday lives, no matter where they are. But certainly, I've lived in Dorset for over 20 years now, and it's a county that's 97% white. So even walking around, my local town of Poole, or like we can see on the map here at Swanage, you will be you will be a minority. You will be in a white majority. That's going to make you feel a certain way. And I've spoken about that a number of times. And in the book, there's a particular chapter that addresses this. It's chapter 5, and it's got a really interesting title. It's called Space Invaders. And that title is taken from a landmark book written by the sociologist, Dr. Nirmal Puar. And she speaks about brown and black bodies entering white spaces and causing a disruption to that space. It's causing a ripple effect where people around you start to feel uncomfortable by your presence. They feel threatened, or they feel curious, or they feel unnerved. And that is, I would say that is the feeling that most people of the global majority feel when they are out, in these isolated rural areas, walking the coast path or wherever it might be. And we, particularly us at the National Trust, we're really tackling this head on. We're going to do something about it, and that is through reducing the powers of gatekeeping and opening ourselves up, and actually going out into communities and listening to what they want, and listening to their stories, and how we enable and empower others to open up rural spaces to as many people as we can.
Absolutely. One of my favorite Instagram, I don't know if you follow this yourself. One of my favorite Instagram accounts is Palestinian Explorer.
Yes, I know the one. Gorgeous videos with his little girl.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Yeah, so this guy is like films himself. Obviously he's got a lot of political commentary on there, but every now and then he drops in him out backpacking and hiking with his little girl, often on his back and stuff like that. And he just uses humor to, so he gets all these hate comments, but then he uses humor to diffuse them. He will go up to a dry stone wall or something like that and say, "I'm going to bless this," on and things like that. And like now it's part of Islam and stuff like that. Where he's clearly tongue in cheek, and he's just and it's such a fantastic thing. And I think It's, in one hand, it's a shame that folks like him have to take to social media to kind of be very overt, push back on this level of hate and misunderstanding and stuff like that. But he looks like a fun guy. If I get him on this podcast,
I know.
I so
I
will,
think
because
he looks like a great guy. And I think it's important to remember that social media is one aspect and one window into this world. And that can only achieve so much. Where the real change will happen is the work being done behind the scenes that no one will ever see, no one will ever talk about. It's the work being done behind the scenes to change cultures, but like people like myself are doing. So it's taken a long road for me to get into a position like that, where you can work at a very senior level to influence and change culture, which hopefully in about 4, 6, 10 years, our Palestinian explorer who's walking the coastline, he's going to feel the benefits of that from people who conserve and look after special places. But all of this work behind the scenes has to happen first. The social media posts that I see from all sorts of groups, this is a very superficial layer of the work, if you like. It raises awareness of the issue. We know what the issues are. The issues are internally within organizations, and we've got to create a change in culture and structure, because most of those organizations that look after natural spaces are majority white. And my white, it's about instilling confidence and awareness and capability in colleagues like that, so they can kind of manage and organize and set up systems which are more equitable and power sharing, so that like in 6 years time, Palestinian explorer's daughter can go out into these rural spaces and feel as much of a sense of belonging as a white person.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well said. And you could tell, like, it's for his daughter, for her to have equitable access. And folks, look, I've said this so many times in this podcast, right? Take yourself out of your comfort zone. To when people say check your privilege, people bristle, right? And it has been kind of weaponized in a way, but what we really truly mean by that is that we have various and different grades and continuums of levels of privilege. It's not one thing. So, for example, yes, I might be a member of the LGBTQ and trans community, and there are some privileges I don't have because of that, but I'm still white, I'm still educated, I'm still socially mobile, I still got a secure house, a secure home, right? And I'm quite happy to admit this, I have residual male privilege, because most of my life I was in that privileged sphere before I started transitioning. And so, but I don't feel threatened by any of that. I actually feel quite liberated by that. So when you hear Anjana and people like this doing this work, if it's making you feel uncomfortable, the question is not, why is Anjana making you feel uncomfortable? Because that's completely the wrong way of it. It's more of a case of, hang on a minute, why is my visceral reaction this? Why is my feeling this? Because if you really were to put your roles reversed, you would certainly be doing the same kind of thing that people like Angela are doing, right? You would so do that. You would stick up for yourself. You would stick up for your family. So just flip the script, basically.
And I think by campaigning and championing equity, particularly equitable access to rural spaces, you've seen the headlines in the news for the last couple of weeks in the Telegraph and places like that.
Oh boy.
Whoever it is, X organization is trying to make the countryside more white. White people aren't welcome, and it's not that at all. It's about beginning to build more equitable access for everyone. And we know this because of the Protected Landscapes Review in 2019 published by DEFRA, we know that some of the most deprived communities in the country, who just so happen to be Black and Asian communities, don't have the same level of access to nature and natural spaces like their white counterparts. So it's just beginning to kind of think about, well, why is that, and what systems can we set up for greater equity? Because if you have a system which is more equitable, everyone rises. It's like the tide rising all at once. Everybody benefits. It's not saying you're not welcome or we're going to put our efforts here. It's about ensuring greater equity for everybody. And it just so happens that we're going to help this particular community who really don't have access to natural spaces. We're going to open those gates, and that everyone is welcome.
That's right. And folks, the next time you look over a landscape and you see the diversity, I mean, it's, it's not as diverse as it used to be because of, land management, industrial, all that kind of stuff. However, when you look over that, you still got different kinds of trees, you've got different undulations of land, you've got rivers and streams. If you see diversity in nature, then it should be for everybody. It should be the diverse of access as well. So that's just what we need to be aware of.
100%.
Okay, Ajahn, we're gonna move on now because we've got the last couple of bits to do. So I'm going to get you to spill the beans now, Anjana, because you say here that you are a Agatha Christie murder mystery fan with a passion, actually. In fact, you love it so much, that and jigsaws, that you got a Miss Marple jigsaw puzzle for Mother's Day this year.
It's just the best. I mean, who knew that was possible? I got this I've always been a fan of murder mysteries, like big time. Like, this is my parents sitting down on a Saturday night and watching Columbo, like in the late 70s, early 80s. So you got to imagine that's what my upbringing was like. It was like watching Columbo, and then you kind of, as a young person, you migrate into Agatha Christie, who's just so deliciously evil and twisted, and I just love it. I love a good murder mystery. Also, I love a good jigsaw. So, when my daughter gives me this gift on Mother's Day this year, I'm just like, this is genius. And so the jigsaw's like, it's got all of the clues from all of the Miss Marple mysteries. And as you're making the jigsaw, you can basically look at the key and the legend. That's so clever. And there's that little clue from that mystery. And so as a result, I am now binge watching all of the Miss Marple mysteries on Netflix. It's the best. I love a good murder mystery. And I love all of them. I'm not discriminatory at all. I'll watch anything where someone is killed.
It's funny you say that, right? Because I was just listening to the latest episode of the Hidden Brain podcast, which used to be an NPR podcast, but now I think it's gone independent with the host.
Yeah.
But they just did, and you would love this, they just did an episode about morbid curiosity, about why do people have morbid curiosity. And basically, Too Long Didn't Read is that it's completely normal. It's human, right?
Yeah.
No one should ever feel like they're strange, they're psychotic or anything like that. If they've got morbid curiosity, it's actually a common human trait. Anyway, folks,
that's good. Angela, that's my get out of jail free card, isn't it?
Yeah, Hidden Brain. Morbid curiosity only came out a week or two ago. Right. So I'm not going to let you get off the hook, right? Because what we're going to do, folks, before we go on to our final bit about we are all geographers, Angela's going to do a quiz. So I'm going to start the quiz music.
Oh my
Agatha
gosh!
Christmas quiz. Here we go. Right.
The final option, actually. I need to move it up.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to read out the question? What was the name of
Sure.
Sorry. What was the name of the first story the young Agatha Christie wrote, or Agatha Miller wrote, in order to stave off boredom while in bed with influenza? Oh, that's a good one. So I have a feeling a murder is announced and a mysterious affair at Styles, which were her much later work. It's got to be the House of Beauty.
You think it's House of Beauty? Let's see, folks. And it's correct. I've got to
excellent.
My ding there. Right. Okay, next.
Oh, much better.
Okay, so which of these is not a short story featuring Miss Marple? So the Herb of Death, the Bloodstained Pavement, or the Chocolate Box?
Okay, I think the Chocolate Box is a short story. I think it's got to be the Bloodstained Pavement. It just feels a little bit too obvious for Christie.
Oh
my
it's a
God!
Box.
Is it?
Okay.
Gosh, man, I'm gutted.
Okay, so far. Right, in Tommy and Tuppence, how old is Tommy in Postern of Fate? Is he 29, 50, or 75?
Gosh, I'm going to say he's 29.
He's 75.
What the heck? I always thought, like, in all the Tommy and Tuppence mysteries and things like that, I always felt like he was like this young, good-looking guy. I was just like, oh man, this is embarrassing.
I hope the author of this quiz has got it right. Right, characters and cases. We first met Reverend Leonard Clements, the vicar of St Mary Mead in The Murder of Vicarage, 1930. What was the name of Reverend Clement's wife? Is it Geraldine, Griselda, or Gertrude?
Yeah, Griselda.
Griselda, correct.
Thank you.
If it makes it gives you the percentage of people who've got it wrong. So you're not the only one. Okay, so what is the name of the fictional Balkan nation mentioned in several stories, including the Several Dials Mystery, 1929? Is it Herzegovina, Bosnagovia or Latvia?
I have a feeling it's Czechoslovakia, but I don't know if that's mental.
You're correct. Not very many people
yeah.
got that right.
Okay,
You know,
there we
28
go.
thought it was
Alright, there we are.
Bosnagovia. Yeah. Okay. Identify the story. A typist finds a man stabbed to death in. Oh, you should get this then. Finds a man stabbed to death in a Sussex home surrounded by timepieces in this Poirot novel, 1963. Is it The Clocks, Dead Man's Folly, or Seven Dials Mystery?
The clocks.
Clocks.
One would
You are
assume,
correct.
since it's mentioning timepieces.
Yeah.
That's good. I'd be
Okay.
embarrassed if I got that wrong.
If you want to go. In 1959, inmates from which prison escaped during a performance of The Mousetrap? Wow.
Oh,
okay.
gosh, that's
Holloway. So
interesting.
this is expanded law. Yeah. So Holloway Women's Prison, Wormwood Scrubs, or Alcatraz. So there was a prison escape during a performance of The Mousetrap.
You know, which inmates from which prison escaped? I guess it's going to be Holloway Women's Prison.
It was Wormwood Scrubs. Wow.
Wow,
That's interesting.
that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. But
Okay.
30% also said Women's Holloway Prison. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, couple more to go. Which novel has this first line? Miss Eridan Oliver has gone with the friend with whom she was staying, Judith Butler, to help with the preparations for a children's party which was to take place that same evening. So was it Crooked House,
Gosh.
Pale Horse, or Halloween Party?
I have a feeling it might be the Crooked House, but I'm in between the Pale Horse and Crooked House. But let's go with Crooked House.
It was actually neither.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Halloween
gosh,
Party.
how embarrassing.
These look like they're very, very like hard. I mean, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, the Sitterford Mystery, 1931. Captain Trevelyan's dead body is dramatically discovered locked inside his house during a blizzard. What object is used as a club to kill him? Was it a sock stuffed with marbles? I should have put a content warning before this. A leg of lamb or a blaze tube filled with sand. Goodness
Gosh,
me.
I do remember this, but I think it might be a baize tube filled with sand.
Right,
That
spoilers,
seems very
everybody. If you don't...
1930s. Who had a leg of lamb in
Correct.
the 1930s? They never did because they were on food rations. So I was using my methodical process.
Well, you're correct there. Oh, we got a Poirot question finally. Do you know what? Very quick anecdote. I actually bumped into David's. Yeah, was it John Shoeshade? Is it John?
Yeah,
John or
David
The one-
Suchet.
David. I bumped into him at St Kate's Docks when I was running a field trip for Year 9 geographers.
Flipping out,
So-
that's great.
Yeah, and I had a quick chat with him. Right, so Poirot is very particular about many things. What eccentricity does he have about numbers? Is that he refuses to process or even dial a telephone number that's not even? He distrusts the number 19, or he insists his bank account always contains £444, 4 shillings and 4 pence.
Gosh, that's difficult. Does he distrust the number 19?
Okay. Apparently, he always insists that his bank account always contains
Okay.
£444.
That's interesting. Okay,
That's
so I
it,
didn't do so
folks.
well. Yeah. Some good, some not so
Aw.
good.
In all fairness, that was a tricky quiz. I mean,
That was very
I
tricky.
know a little bit of Agatha Christie, but that was
Yeah.
deep cut. That was
Yeah.
deep cut. Wow. Okay. So we'll give you a pass there. I mean, you know, I think you got 4, so that's fine. I think
Okay.
when it comes to Agatha Christie and her absolute expansive works, I think that's not too bad, to be honest. Right. Oh, Anjana, it's time to bring this wonderful discussion to a close now. It's been so lovely talking to you, and I think the only other time we actually managed to get to sit down for almost an hour was when we were having lunch at one of the GA conferences, I think.
Yes,
So
I
it's
think
been
you're
a
right.
been a while. So the we are all geographers now, and that is when we get you to riff for 30 seconds about a word that the previous guest has come up for you. So last discussion, I spoke to the wonderful Nava Korim Ahmad, who's from the Western Pacific, now lives in Latvia, and she did the word joy. It was set to her by Aparna Bamzai from the United States, and Nava has come up for you for 30 seconds. The word
gosh.
blip. Blip. Blip.
Oh, okay. All right. Blip. And am I just,
So
you
whenever
just
you're
want me to
ready.
talk about blip for 30 seconds?
For 30 seconds, however you want to take it, you can
Okay,
weave it into your expertise, or you could just be random,
totally,
completely up to you.
totally. It's all
So
going to
whenever
be
you're
about
ready,
the
Anjana,
Jurassic. Yeah, it's all going to be about the Jurassic Coast because there is a blip in
off
the
you go.
rocks when you're. Okay, let's start again. My
Okay.
blip is all about on the Jurassic Coast, because if you walk along the cliffs over at Charmouth and Lyme Regis and you look up at the cliffs, you're going to see a really weird feature called an unconformity. And this is between the Upper Cretaceous rocks and the Jurassic rocks underneath. So these are these dark grey limestones and shales. And then suddenly the whole geological sequence changes and you see the upper green sand. And this is a blip in the geological record, because what's happened is those horizontal rocks at one point were uplifted, eroded, and you got new rocks deposited on top. So a whole chunk of time is missing. The blip in time.
Wow, perfect. Oh my God, that was perfect. Oh, well done. Well done.
Thank God for that. That was
Oh,
good. Good
that
word.
was, yeah. It's been a season of that, to be honest. It's been a season of that where the person just got a word that completely links in with the work that they do, and it's been completely coincidental.
Lucky.
So yeah. So of course you do not know who I'm speaking to next, but what word are you gonna pass on?
What word am I going to pass on? I've got a lot of bizarrely, I've got a lot of pictures of birds in front of me, so I'm going to go with flight.
Oh, I love that. Flight. So there we are, folks. We're going to be doing flight the next time I have my chat. Oh, thank you so much for giving up your time this morning, or now this afternoon. Really loved it. Where can people find you, get hold of your book and all that kind of stuff? So a chance for you to plug your wares now.
Okay, well, The Whispers of Rock is available in all good bookstores. Please go to your independent bookstore, support them. If not, it'll be available at Waterstones or online. The paperback is coming out on the 3rd of September. So if you fancy
Ooh,
a more kind of affordable copy, the hardback is beautiful. It's a real keeper, but the
it
paperback is
really
out on
is.
the 3rd of September. You can find me on socials at Anjana Khatwa on Instagram and at Jurassic Girl with the one over on TikTok. But yeah, that's where I am. And
There
my
you go.
website is www.anjanakhatwa.com.
There you go, folks. Lots of different ways. Angela, thank you so much, my friend. This has been really joyful. I did take my my lunch break for this, my work lunch break there.
Oh, thank you.
But I go back to I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be here at my desk, and I've still got the kids upstairs. We're recording this during the Easter holiday, folks, so whenever this comes out. Thank you so much, and I hope I get to see you again sometimes in the near future at a conference or
For
anything.
sure. Take care, Kip.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Coffee and Geography. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave us a rating or review. It really helps. Some episodes are also available with video, so don't forget to check out the Geogramblings YouTube channel for more. Stay in the loop by following us and using hashtag CoffeeJogPod on Blue Sky and LinkedIn. That's hashtag CoffeeJogPod, where we share updates on new episodes and upcoming guests. Got a question for a guest? Post it on LinkedIn or Blue Sky using hashtag JogQ over a brew. Yes, hashtag JogQ over a brew. And we might just feature it on the show. Keep exploring, keep connecting, and as always, keep geogging.